Good evening. Welcome to Aldersgate United Methodist Church. We're so glad you're here in person and everybody who's viewing online also. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carrie Beckenhauer. I'm a member of the Lasting Legacy team here. We've been putting on this presentation series this year, and also we did it in 2025. This is our fourth presentation in the series, and you know, it's always a good thing to learn more about stewardship of our own financial resources and improve our financial literacy. A couple of housekeeping things before we begin. One is that the restrooms are out the double doors you just came in, left down the hallway. You'll see the water fountain. Once you see the water fountain, you know that you're in the right place. We also have emergency exits on every wall, not that we expect to use them, but just in case. You're welcome to have coffee and a snack while you're here with us. We only ask that you take your coffee cup or water glass back out with you. There's a tub in the fellowship hall where they need to go. So what we'll do tonight is the speaker probably will talk for about 30 to 40 minutes. After that, we'll have Q&A, and I'll bring around the wireless mic. And when we bring around the wireless mic, that allows people who are viewing online to hear the question. Otherwise, they miss out. So, that's kind of the housekeeping for tonight, and now I'm going to introduce our speaker. Becky Witt is a proud Lincoln native and graduate of Lincoln Southeast High School and Nebraska Wesleyan University. After 13 years of experience with Honda and Acura dealerships, she launched George Witt Service, a specialty shop dedicated to Honda, Toyota, Acura, and Lexus vehicles. Now in its 31st year, the shop has serviced more than 71,000 cars and counting. A nationally recognized industry expert, Becky travels the country teaching at automotive clinics and sharing her deep knowledge with drivers and professionals alike. When she's not under the hood or in the classroom, you might spot her riding her Honda Goldwing to bike rallies across the United States. Becky is someone who has spent decades researching synthetic oils and vehicle longevity, building one of the most extensive independent databases in the field. Her insights have been featured in major publications, including Consumer Reports, which drew on her research for their recent Keep It or Trade It article. Please join me in welcoming Becky Witt.
Thank you, Carrie, and thanks for being here tonight. I really appreciate the chance to educate people and talk about a topic that's our number 2 investment, which is the worst return on investment there could possibly be, because the minute you drive it off the lot, it's dropping like a rock. And even worse than that, you've got people like myself reaching for your purse to shake you down for money. The first thing that I think is the most important as far as buying a car is to buy a car you can love. The first thing is, what do you want the car to do? You need an urban assault vehicle so you can crush everything on the road during rush hour, or you need something that's easy on gas that you can park 2 of them in one parking place. You want to think about like a pair of shoes. You're going to use this every day, and every decision is a compromise. And don't get too excited over cup holders. When I was young, well, a lot of you remember when they had vacuum tube radios, and one of my girlfriends said her mom bought a specific car because it had a transistor radio, and as soon as she turned the knob, it had music. There's some dumb reasons to buy cars. Where do you need to go? Be realistic about how often you're going to go there. Do you need to get 2x4s at the lumber yard? How often do you get 2x4s? Do you need something that'll go in the snow? Do you really need four-wheel drive? Do you really need something jacked up for when it snows? How many days a week does it snow? How many days a year does it snow? Maybe 2 or 3. And what do you do then? You stay home? Play with a cat? Well, you do. So, do you drive the snowplow? I mean, do you have to be there? And I had one customer, I'm asking him, fitting him with a set of tires. And I said, how important is it that you go in the snow? And I said, do you drive the snowplow? He said, no, I drive a city bus, and if I'm not there, I get fired. Okay, I know what tire to sell to you now. Big vehicles have big repair bills. I know that it's a very popular thing for people to say, I want to sit up high so I can see. A high center of gravity vehicle might be difficult to find a parking place in a parking garage. And I've had one lady that she sold her Accord, and she bought a big van, and she said, it doesn't zip. She said, my car used to zip. So you just want to think about just these different aspects. Big vehicles have big repair bills, and they take more gas. Jeep. Jeep stands for just empty every pocket. There's a lot of mechanics that love Jeeps because they put their kids through college. Expensive cars have expensive repair bills. I don't want to offend anyone here who drives a Euro car, but Euro cars, you might think, you know, I really want a BMW because I want a quality car. I want my kids to be in a quality car. Well, you never want to be the third owner of a Euro car because the engineers could care less if you ever got that thing past 100,000 miles. I was talking to somebody one day and they said, I got a Volkswagen and they told me it needed brakes. I only got 38,000 miles and they said it was going to be $4,000 for front brakes. Does that sound right? I said, well, I don't know, but I know somebody who does. And I called a friend of mine who has a Volkswagen. That's his shop. He said, oh yeah. He said, the brake rotors are a composite material. He said, this is made out of secret stuff from the Black Forest. And when you, when you wear out the brake pads, you've also worn out the rotors, and they've got to be changed out at the same time. That's the work of a Euro car. And I'm a dummy for not going into the Euro car business because their cars go in for weeks at a time. They've got to wait for parts to come out on a boat. And the thing about being the third owner of that BMW is everything's going to break and it's going to be constant. It's going to be every week. You're going to get stuck with a huge bill. You want the prestige of saying, yeah, I drive a Beamer. Well, you used to have money. All right, so we've talked about what do you want the car to do, where do you want it to go, and once you're kind of figuring this out, I'm kind of thinking about getting this or that, the next question is, how much have you got? Usually, once you get to point 3, how much have you got, we're refiguring what it is we said we wanted. The expenses of a car, your two biggest expenses are depreciation and maintenance. Depreciation and maintenance. So when I go to Edmunds.com, I looked up a Camry or an Accord, and the 5-year cost to own one of those cars, over 5 years, the depreciation was $11,000 to $16,000. Insurance was $6,000, financing was $5,000. The true cost to own one of those cars for 5 years in trade, every 5 years, was 50 cents a mile. $7,500 a year. And people say, oh, I'm just going to lease a car because I don't want repair bills. Here's your next one. Let's instead of buying a new car, let's buy an old car. So instead of $11,000 to $16,000 for depreciation, we're going to have $500. And your financing is going to be zero because it's going to be low enough that you can afford to pay cash for it. The true cost of having one of those for 5 years is 23 cents a mile, half price. And I even threw in repairs at $3,700. You're going to make your mechanic proud. They're going to send you flowers on your birthday. So if you had $10,000 and you're going to get a car, Larry is going to put $10,000 down and buy an $80,000 car. That's what it costs today to buy a fancy SUV. Mary is going to buy a $10,000 car. At the end of 10 years, Mary has saved up a whole bunch of money. Larry has an old car. If you're thinking about buying a car and you're looking at the money side, you don't want to buy a car you can't afford. And once you sit in a car, there's something intoxicating about the VOCs of a car. That's the volatile organic compounds. That's a new car smell.
Yeah.
Well, it is. I mean, it puts you right under. You sit there thinking, whoa, whoa, whoa. And one of the things that'll happen is the car salesman will not talk about the cost of the car. He'll say, how much have you got per month? And if you're not careful, they'll put you in a 9-year financing. And you'll say, I can handle this payment. Well, maybe you can now, but in today's market, who knows when your company that you've worked for 30 years is going to get bought up, get out of date, and now you're 3 months into this thing, and you've lost your job, and you're in a pickle. And the car's dropped down drastically, and now it's what they call being upside down. You owe more on the car than it's worth. So the advice is, put the payments in, put 6 months payments into a savings account. Every month, make that check, put it into a savings account, and if you're really comfortable, at the end of 6 months, you go, I can handle this. Now you've got 6 months more to put down, or 6 months for a cushion in case something happens. And you've got a better perspective. You've cleared your lungs out of the volatile organic compounds. If you're going to go in and buy a car, you want to shop for the financing first. You want to know probably your best deal is through a credit union, and they're going to ask you for like 20% down. Kind of figure that. One of the issues with financing a car and buying new is the depreciation is such that if you're in an accident and it's totaled after a year, you could be in a world of hurt because you're upside down pretty fast. You've got to be careful about this. So don't overlook buying a used car. Maintenance is less than depreciation. Leasing is not a good idea. It's a terrible deal. Whenever you're going to buy a car, take a calculator with you and start punching the numbers. When they say, I can get you into this, I can get you into this for this much money, start doing the math. And as you're looking at cars, use your assets. Check for recalls. I had a customer recently tell me he had an Accord, he had like a 2012 Accord, and there was something or other wrong with it, and he said, yeah, I said, I kind of figured this was going to happen. I said, what do you mean? He said, I did a Google search for common problems on 2012 Accords. Got a wealth of information. Prepared him for what actually turned out to be a fairly pricey repair on his car, but it was worth keeping, worth doing. One thing you can do is join Facebook groups. There's a Facebook group for anything. If you're thinking about buying a Ford Fusion, join a Facebook group for people that own Ford Fusions. Actually, go into mechanic groups technical groups. You don't have to participate. You don't have to let on that you don't know anything, but just see what they say. People ask me about certain car models. I may have never seen the car model, but I'm reading mechanic forums forever. And the guys will say on this one car, said, oh yeah, it's got an oil leak, so go ahead and plan on a head gasket too, because they all need that. So you'll learn what's going on. Do a Google search for the lowest owner loyalty. What are the cars least likely to repurchase? Who wants to guess? What's the model that's the least likely to be repurchased?
What is the question again?
What's that?
What is the question?
The question is, what model car is the least likely to be purchased a second time once you've owned it?
Jeep.
Jeep, great question. Anybody want to have a second guess?
Tesla.
What'd you say?
Tesla.
I didn't make it. Okay, look for the worst, look for the best. Right now, I've got a friend that's looking for a car for her son who's just graduated from high school, and the kid wants an Accord, and she said they're so expensive, and that's because everybody wants one. Take an Accord or a Camry, you're pretty safe. They're pretty set for not breaking. Dealer tricks. A dealer trick to get you to buy is to advertise a fabulous deal, and then when you get to the dealership, they go, oh, we just sold that one. So, yeah, the feds are on them right now, and they just passed a law that said, no, you don't do that. If you sell a car, you got to pull that listing down within 7 minutes or something crazy like that. Or tell you that deal's sold. They'll add on things. When you come to my shop, I always ask, do you have wheel locks on your car? Every new car dealer sales manager puts wheel locks on the cars. Wheel locks are just a lug nut that's difficult to get off, and you have to have a little adapter, and nobody ever knows where the adapter is, and you couldn't use it in the dark and the rain anyway. They're just a complete pain, and people have their trunks are full of stuff. So I'm supposed to go fishing through their stuff to find this little thing. And I finally said, I want to take them off. So I called the police. I said, does anybody steal wheels anymore? I can't think of one, he said. Okay, so off go the wheel locks. But every car on a car lot is going to have wheel locks on it already, because that's an extra $150. It's already on the car. You can't negotiate that. They're going to tell you it's a great car, and then when they get you to sign for the deal, they're going to add fees on. There's a document fee. There's a fee for the fee. Every industry has this. You know, there's an extra bag fee. In my business, car repair, shop supplies. You got to pay shop supplies. I took a vehicle I had in for an alignment. He said, well, I'm going to have shop supplies. I said, what shop supplies do you need? There's no parts involved. It's nuts and bolts. Well, you know, penetrating oil, rags. I said, like, you ain't got those already? All right, so once they've worn you down and you've signed to buy the thing, then they take you into the finance office. What's happened is the salesman's worn you down. They're going to bring in people with fresh legs. And after you sign, after the salesman has told you need to buy this car, it's such a great car, the finance and insurance people are going to tell you, oh, that thing's going to break. There's all this stuff going. There's all this electronics. You need to buy a breakdown insurance policy. They make more money selling breakdown insurance policies than they make selling cars. I'm not kidding. 12 years in the dealership business. I know all about this stuff. They'll tell you it's going to break. You got to buy this. If I was going to buy, back in the days, I was at an Oldsmobile and a Honda dealer, and if I told people about buying an Oldsmobile, you would always buy the breakdown insurance. If you're buying a Honda, you would never buy the breakdown insurance. They're going to bet you $2,500 that it's going to break, and when it does, it's going to be over $2,500. It's pretty minimal that that's going to happen. If you could bankroll that breakdown and not put you in a bind, don't buy the policy. They're going to sell you rust proof, and that's a dumb idea. Cost comparisons. Here's some of my favorites. This is Stacy. On the left is a picture of Stacy with the car that she bought. It's a Honda CR-V. I think it's an 04. Stacy has been a career customer. I wrote the first ticket on that car when it had 3,000 miles for its first oil change. It's come to me for every single maintenance since, and now it's got 190,000 miles on it. It's now a loaner car. If any of you are my customer, that's WIT 3. It's a beautiful car, looks like nobody's ever sat in it, and on the right is Stacy's brand new CR-V. She kept a car for over 20 years, and that's how you minimize the system. Any questions so far? All right, this is how to take care of your car.
With a Twinkie.
Jeez, the natives are just restless back here. Doesn't anybody feed you? There's Twinkies on the plate. This is a deal that I set up to show how much I love my Honda. That's a New Year's dinner. I have, and actually, I've got this actually laid out like you would lay out. I've got the different forks on the left and the dessert stuff on the right. And that bottle of wine is Transmission Red. I went to an event. I got friends in Florida. They have a big event every year, and her hobby is making wine. And she made a bottle of red wine for everyone who attended the event, and they printed a label, and it said Transmission Red. All right, how to take care of your car. The first fluid that every new driver has to learn about is what? What's the first fluid you got to know?
Oil.
Gas.
Gas. Yeah, sorry about that.
Darn
Gasoline, and that's because when you run out, the car doesn't go anymore. That's a real easy one. Gasoline all comes out of the same pipe. If you don't know that, it does. So people say I should buy it wherever. No. The problem with gasoline is it needs to have properties to clean things, to be detergent, to have so it doesn't vapor lock when it's hot, so it doesn't freeze when it's cold. And there's been a big problem. If you had a BMW, you know all about this stuff because they develop carbon like crazy. And they have to be taken apart and all the carbon chiseled out of it. The car makers got together and said, look, here's the standards for the gasoline that you should use in your car. And they called it top tier gas, and you could go online to toptiergas.com and look up and see the stations that meet top tier gas standards. Costco is one that does meet the standards, by the way. But Sam's Club doesn't. You want name brand stuff, Shell, Texaco, Conoco, Phillips. You're going to be good there. This is a surprising thing that will do a lot for your car to keep it from getting carboned up. So this lady lost her 710 cap. She goes into the auto parts store, and you know what happens to ladies that go into auto parts store. They're not treated well. She said, I lost my 710 cap, I need to get another one. Guy says, lady, there's no such thing as a 710 cap. Yes, there is. No, there is. Yes, there is. He turns the paper around. Yeah, there's a 710 cap. So So the reason I teach you about the 710 cap is that lists the proper weight of the motor oil that the engine takes. If you need to add a quart of oil and you don't know, and in the old days, they used to put the weight on the reminder sticker. There's not room for that anymore. And so you just look at the cap and it'll tell you what weight. It'll be an example like 5W30. So who has an idea what the W stands for in 5W30?
Wait.
What's that?
Wait.
Weight? Who said that? You did. Yeah, you get a Twinkie. That's the wrong answer. Anybody else want to try a different one? It's okay. I presented a class just on motor oil for repair shop owners. There were 78 professionals in the class. I had people write it down on a piece of paper. 8 people out of 78 professionals knew what the W stood for, which means 69 had no clue. I'm serious. So when you say, well, my mechanic said, well, ask your mechanic if he's been to classes. This is a very deep subject. The W stands for winter. So the example, 5W30, means that when it's below the freezing point of water, it will pour and flow like a 5-weight oil. But when it gets hot at the boiling point of water, it will still be as thick as a 30-weight oil. That's where they come up with the multi-weight. The importance of this, and they keep getting thinner and thinner, and cars today are using like 0W20. And you know, the fat guy with a cigar says, well, I ain't putting that stuff in my car, I want something thick, by golly. The greatest bearing wear occurs on a cold start. So they're using thin oil, tight clearances, so that it can get to where it needs to right away. Motor oils have specifications. Up until about 2002, the API, the American Petroleum Institute, developed the oils. And they sent the standards to the car makers, and the car makers had to design a vehicle that would run on that oil. This all worked good until about 1998. From 1998 to 2002, Toyota had 1.5 million engines sludge up. Just like that. All that gook. What happens is it sludged up, it blocked the return holes to get back down to the bottom of the engine. And when you started it up, it pumped all the oil up to the top, nothing left to the bottom. Boom. This engine, this is a photograph that I took when I was the service manager at Acura of Omaha. This is a 3-year-old Acura with 20,000 miles. The lady swore that she had changed oil every 3,000 miles. This is back when it was 3 months, 3,000. Well, it took her like 6 months, so she was way over on time, and as it turned out, she lived less than a mile from work. So all of her trips were short, the engine never got warmed up. What happened then is that the car maker said, we got to do something about oil. We got to have standards for oil. So standards were designed for oil, and motor oils now have specifications. The problem is that people selling the oil lie about it. This picture that I showed you is a complete fabrication. It says American motor oil at the top, European formula at the bottom, 5W30. The specifications for European 5W30 are totally different than American 5W30. If you put, swear to God, if you put 5W30 oil made for a BMW into a Corvette, it will blow up. If you put the 5W30 meant for a Corvette into a BMW, it will blow up. There's so many things going on. General Motors finally said, look, we're sick of this. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to develop the standards and the specs for the oil that's got to go in our cars. This is what our cars have to have, and you have to submit your oil to us for testing. If it passes all of our tests, we'll let you put our logo on it, which says Dexos. So if you have a Japanese car or a domestic car and you have oil that's Dexos, you know that's a good oil. That'll protect your engine. That will go with the extended intervals. Also, if you go to your owner's manual, it'll tell you, like this one says, Chrysler MS 6395, MS 13340. That's Chrysler specifications for their oil. Jiffy Lube was just sued. Class action suit by a guy with a Hyundai, which are notable for blowing up, because he had his oil changed at a Quick Lube and they put in 5W30 instead of 0W30. He had to go 2 other places to get the right oil, so he filed a class action suit. And I know for a fact there are shops that are putting the same oil in everything. The problem that we have right now with it, if you're a car dealer, is the parts manager is the one that buys the parts. They get paid on the gross profit. So it's to their benefit to sell cheaper stuff. And bulk oil isn't even reliable. Bulk oil, there's a group called Motor Oil Matters, MOM, and they tested 1,000 bulk tanks and found out that 20% of what was in the bulk tanks wasn't what the label said. So it depends on the guy loading the truck in the morning. Was he hungover, or is it deceptive or what? So at our shop we use bottled oil. I can see what the specs are. I crack the seal. I know exactly what's in that. Maintenance intervals, roughly 7,500 miles. Your basic maintenance is going to be a road test before and after, checking under the hood, rotating the tires, inspecting the brakes, and an oil change. I know you want to go through a Jiffy Lube. Here's the deal. You need to think about this. Whatever a shop sells is what they're going to pay attention to. You cannot check the suspension on a car if it's not raised in the air with the wheels hanging down. You go to a Jiffy Lube, never lifts up. They don't sell ball joints. They don't sell tie rod ends. You're not going to get that stuff checked because that's not what they're going to do. They're going to sell you an engine air filter every single time because that's what they can do. Now, I'm not bagging on these guys, and I'm not telling you every one of them's crooked, but I'm telling you, as somebody who has been in business management for a long time, you can't make money selling oil changes. Not without doing other stuff. It ain't there because we want a $100 oil change. So there's that. Batteries. Yes?
Can you go back to intervals? You kind of ran over that, but 3,000 was always the, 3,000 was always the test, it seemed like, for many years.
Yes.
And I'm sure that there's still a lot of folks that religiously will do it at 3,000 miles.
Yes.
What is it that allows you to go 7,500 miles? Is it the fact that it's a synthetic oil? Or what is it about the oil that's different, or the other things that are different, allowing you to go 7,500 miles? That's
great question. Great question. A lot of things have changed. The engines have changed. We used to have carburetors. They ran rich as could be, and they dumped all kinds of fuel into the oil, getting warmed up, and they took forever to warm up. They've changed that to fuel injection. They've made the engine now warm up within minutes instead of taking 15 minutes. So you've got less strain from the car. I did a whole 3-hour class on this, Larry, in Las Vegas for mechanics, and I went through the history of all of this. The motor oil is different. The 3-month, 3,000-mile oil that I showed you that was in that sludged up car, in order to keep it, to make the weight work out, the friction, the modifiers that they used were like strands of spaghetti, and as they went through the rings, they got cut up. And through additional refining, Mobil 1 Extended Performance is probably refined 5 times. So it's as close to a true oil that doesn't really need much additive, so it can go a long time without breaking down. The old oils, as the little strands got sliced up, made the oil thick.
Is it safe to say that if you buy a car and it's, say, 2 years or 3 years or younger than that, and you go into a place that wants to come back in 3,000 miles, that either they don't know what they're talking about or else they tend to take you for a ride? Is it safe to say something like that or not?
I have seen many mechanics, repair shop owners say clean oil is good oil. You don't need all that stuff. You know, all that stuff's a bunch of malarkey. They want to wear your engine out. You just put clean oil in and you're good. You put the wrong clean oil in your car, you're going to trash the engine. So you got to have the standards that it came with. These are great questions.
Are you going to be talking about ethanol at all?
A little bit.
Okay, well, the reason I ask is there's the people that are just as rigidly believing 3,000 mile changes. Oftentimes, it seems to me they're the same people who say ethanol is bad for your, and they may be right. I don't know. I'm interested in getting your take on it, but that's been around a long enough time now that you ought to be able to tell whether ethanol added,
Okay, I'll cover the ethanol in a minute.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. That's a great question.
That's the only reason I asked the question.
No, you did good. All right, we're going to do batteries next. When do you buy a battery? When you need it, right? That's the dumbest thing ever. Well, it is. And I will tell you that in the world of men are risk takers. I've actually had men brag to me about how many times they had to use jumper cables to get that car. If a woman's car doesn't start, it's a potentially life-threatening situation.
That's right.
So I studied battery failures, and I used the formula for statistical probability. And in Lincoln, Nebraska, at 39 to 42 months, based on testing 5,000 batteries, 39 to 42 months, the failure rate ramped up dramatically, and I found if we just changed them at 36 months, we could avoid all of that. We could also avoid corroded battery cables. You can see the corrosion there. The corrosion climbs down the battery cables, and I've had a car in within the month that they put 3 starters in it and they don't know what's going on. Well, it failed testing because the cable was corroded and the current couldn't get through it. That was all because the battery stayed in too long. Worn corroded cables and a bad battery will stress an alternator. So I can save you an alternator, I can save you a starter, I can save you battery cables if you just buy a battery at 36 months on blind faith. Okay, RTM, read the factory manual. The manual will tell you what you should do and when you should do it. It's very explicit. You just got to use factory fluids. Had a guy call this morning, has an 18 Corolla, wanted to get a transmission service. It's a variable speed. I looked up the specs. There is no mention of changing that fluid. Then I looked up the process. It takes an hour and a half to change it. You have to go through this whole thing, and you have to use a computer interface tool to find out the temperature of the fluid. The temperature has to be a certain temperature before you're done and can say, we're finished. And the fluid is $33 a quart, and it takes 8 quarts. Simple job. I'll be happy to do it. $682.14. What do you think? All right. Factory fluids at factory intervals. This is a picture. I'm going to talk about automatic transmission fluid now. This is a picture of Valvoline, full synthetic, it says. Down across the bottom, it says suitable for 95% of cars. It's a lie. Here's Valvoline. And if you look on the label, it says officially licensed for Dexron, which is a type of General Motors transmission fluid. Officially licensed means it'll work. Suitable for use means it doesn't meet the standards. Recommended for use means it doesn't meet the standards. Designed and developed for means it doesn't meet the standards. Only officially licensed or meets or exceeds the specifications, and it lists the specifications. Coolant, automatic transmission fluid, every fluid in your car was developed to counter something that was happening that was bad with the car. Every fluid is designed to make your car go better, and there's people out there that said, oh, they're just doing that to make more money. Well, whether they make more money or not, if you use the right fluids, you'll have less car trouble. All right, here's light duty tips. And that means just the warning lights on the dash. There's 3 colors to the lights, and that kind of indicates how much you pay attention to them. A Prius can have 42 lights on the dash, I'm not kidding. So green means you're good to go. Amber, like a check engine light, means check caution. The red means whoa up, Vern. That would be a battery light or the Magic Genie light. Magic Genie light's oil pressure, and if you ignore that and keep driving, you're going to meet the Magic Genie. The battery light, well, they couldn't do a picture of an alternator that anybody could understand. So they did a battery, and what that means is your battery light comes on, you're going to have battery trouble, so you need to find a place to get off the road. Exterior care, wash it weekly at a premium car wash. I really like Jet Splash. They seem to do a great job. This is WIT 6. It's a 99 Accord, so it's now 27 years old with 243,000 miles. And it runs and drives like it's just never been driven. Bird deposits and bugs eat paint. That's the bug's revenge. And the interior, this is one that's stacked with debris. It had an in transit sticker on it, for heaven's sakes. It took them less than a month to do this. All right, so ethanol. With no regard to the effect on the environment. Just talking about the vehicle. If it's after 2014, every vehicle is designed to take E10, no problem. The ones that are, the ethanol board is pushing us to do this, it's 85%, E85, they're lying to us. They said it's approved for every vehicle. Approved by them. It's, it is, I'm not kidding. I looked through 17 owner's manuals to find out, what do the car makers say? In 2015 and beyond, they say it's okay. Ethanol is extremely corrosive. It eats stuff. You don't put it in your lawnmower, because the lawnmower will tell you you don't do that. You don't put it in small engines. And modern cars, E10, they run just fine. There's no big deal. If you want to run the 85 stuff, I guess it's okay. I don't see the harm in it. Does that answer your question?
I suppose. I don't know. E85 that's somewhat cheaper than the regular.
Well, that's 15%. The physics of it is there's not as much energy in a gallon of alcohol as there is in a gallon of gasoline. When E10 first came out, I did a lot of testing in this, and I found that my gas mileage was 10% less. And it was 10% alcohol. Like, okay, so why do I need the alcohol? This is before they really engineered the cars. Now they're reading all kinds of stuff. They used to just look at they've got so many more sensors. They do so much more. They warm up fast. They warm up in like 3 minutes.
Well, the old comment was that ethanol would do a job on certain kinds of rubber gaskets and different piping.
And it would, but they've changed all that. Yeah, back in the when it first came out in the 70s, you may have even had this. You bought a Honda, and if you put E10 in that Honda and it was a 90-degree day, it would boil in the carburetor and the car wouldn't run. I was the service manager at a dealership, and they got towed in off the interstate. They just bought a brand new Accord. Yeah, it vaporized, and it wouldn't go. And Honda had had a film strip for us mechanics to explain to people how to start a flooded Honda, and they said to crank it for 15 to 30 seconds. That's forever. So everything's changed.
It sounds like it's something you could do with some reliability involved.
Yeah, the E10 is not going to hurt a darn thing. The car's made for it. Not a problem.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Any other questions?
Is CarShield a good deal?
No. No, actually, and that's a great question. Question is CarShield a good deal? No, it's not. They're advertising these breakdown policies, and if you talk to professional mechanics, they hardly cover anything. They make it real tough to get your car fixed. It's nothing like they tell you. They're not a good deal. Thank you. We're exactly, one last one.
I can talk loud enough.
Oh, here. No. Oh, yeah, the people at home need to hear you.
There you go.
There you go.
This is an insurance question. If I bought a antique vehicle and I was driving it home, a drunk driver smashed into my expensive antique vehicle, and the guy's insurance company says, well, it's totaled, we'll pay you.
Right, $500 because it's old. Yeah.
You know, so they aren't going to pay me the $12,000 I paid for an antique vehicle. How much are they going to pay me?
Okay, the question is, if you got an antique or an odd vehicle, what happens if you're in a wreck? The first thing is you need to get insurance on it before you drive it. There are companies that offer this, and it's called stated value. They're in the business of insuring antique and collector cars, and yes, you can get insurance for it. But the real collector cars, you're not driving every day. You're probably going to drive it for a parade. It's not like a huge risk. You're going to be very, very careful with it, but it is a great question, and you do need to seek out special insurance.
And so what company would sell me that insurance?
Well, I can't tell you that right now.
Okay.
They promised me that I had to stop at 45 minutes, and we're at 47. Yes.
Nancy's got a question.
Just a comment. My dad used to sell cars, and he always told me, before you buy a car, call your insurance agent and tell him what you're about to do.
There you go. Yes, before you buy a car, call your insurance agent, tell them what you're going to do. It's been a pleasure. Mary?
How do you find a good mechanic?
Wow. You find a good mechanic by talking to your friends, doing Google searches, and I guess reading ratings. There's some of these places that, I mean, they look fancy and they look really nice, and they're not being nice to people. I hired a unicorn mechanic 3 years ago. And a unicorn is somebody who is never late to work, can fix anything, never complains, never calls in sick, and can fix anything from a school bus to a Corolla. And the guy rolls up in a 30-year-old pickup truck that looks like it's never been driven. Looks like he got it from the truck show. Even the underneath is spotless. There's no rust in it. It's all painted. And he has a trailer, flatbed trailer, that looks like it just got done, and he's got all of his toolboxes there, and I go, that's my guy. I got him because he's worked at every shop in town. And I asked him, well, what about this shop? Yeah, I lasted 2 weeks there. Ethics. And there was one place that professes religion in their title. And he said, yeah, they asked me if I want to go to prayer meetings the first day. He said, after I saw what they were doing, he said, there's no way. So you got to ask around. Just ask around and read reviews. and that kind of thing. It depends on what you drive, but I think this actually applies to anything, whether you're an attorney or a lawn care company or a dentist. There's probably 20% of them that are really, really good. And it's the 80-20 rule. And there's a lot of good ones out there, and the good ones, they're working their hearts out. They're working their hearts out, and this is a very, very difficult business. In order just to service your air conditioner, I have 3 air conditioning machines, because I have to have the one for the regular cars, then I have to have one for the regular cars that are hybrids, then I have to have one for the new stuff. A hybrid car, it uses the compressors driven by electricity, and the lubricating oil that we've always used conducts electricity. So you have to use a different oil, and that takes a different machine to do it. So now they've come out with the new stuff that's just 4 or 5 years old, and I bought a machine for that. Well, now we got hybrids, so I got to have new stuff hybrids. I priced it out today, $11,000 for that machine. I haven't had a job yet for that. I'm going to have to invest that so that I can do those cars. And insurance will kill you. So I know that car repair seems like it's too much. It's because it is. It is. My goal has always been to have people that I pay well enough so they can afford to own their own home, drive a nice car, and have health insurance. That's been my thing. And the problem is, in order to be cheap, you got drive-through lanes, they're doing oil changes while you wait, and they're hiring kids, and they're over-tightening your lug nuts. Thanks for coming.
Oh, Becky, I just, we got a couple minutes here, so I wanted to ask a couple questions, or I hope you could address. If you talk about safety in particular, some of your newsletters, not everybody here gets your newsletter, okay? But if someone gets in your car with you that is not your friend, you had an article about...
Yes, I did.
Yes, please talk about that.
If somebody jumps in your car, in the first place, you should lock your car doors the minute you get in. Lock your doors. In the event that you didn't, somebody gets in and they're a threat to you, stand on the gas, run into something. I'm serious. Once they realize you're driving this car and you're going 80 miles an hour and you're looking for a brick wall, you've got a seat belt, you've got an airbag. They probably don't. Next question.
You want to disable the car.
What's that?
You want to disable the car.
Yeah.
They're not going to drive you to some dark alley or some field out in the country. You're going to disable the car.
You never let them take you to a second location, and when you're shopping for cars, buy a stick shift. Carjackers can't drive stick anymore.
One of the things you touched on was batteries. I don't want to put an exact date on it, but my memory serves that if I go back 20 years, I could buy a battery that had a 60-year warranty, or 60-month warranty, and a 36-month warranty, and the value was always higher for the higher warranty. But today's batteries, it's 36 months, and that's your only choice. What's changed?
Okay, great question. What's changed in batteries? You get a Twinkie. All right. I'll tell you, 2 things have changed in batteries. The question was, long ago, 20 years ago, you could get a battery with an 84-month guarantee. And I got so mad at the car industry in the 70s for just building, the PCD got overactive. That's a product cheapening department. And I got mad and I said, I'm not going to be buying this stuff anymore. And I went to old classic convertibles. I had a 70 Eldorado convertible, a 61 Olds 88 convertible, beautiful cars. And I could park them in the backyard, throw a cover over them in the fall, and in the spring I could go out and they'd pop right off and run. The battery was fine. The only thing that drew electricity in those was a wind-up clock, and they quit working after a year. today, you don't have just a computer in your car, you've got a network of computers. Your computer sends a signal to another computer that sends a signal to the window motor. Guy's got a Volkswagen. He tells me his one window motor doesn't work, so he switches it to the other side, and when he hits the button, this one won't go up and down, but he hits the button for this one, which he took the motor out of, now it runs the other window. Because it's the left window motor. No matter where you put it, it's the left window motor. So what's happening is there's a constant parasitic drain. And when the engine is hot, summertime, you pull into a rest area and you stop, it runs a cooling fan to cool everything off so you can have a nice start ahead of time. So you're running all kinds of stuff. And the old cars, you didn't have seat heaters. You didn't have steering wheel heaters. This stuff all draws amperage like crazy. And frankly, the long warranty, I bought a lifetime warranty from JCPenney. Talk about 84 months. It was a lifetime. Well, that was the marketing department. They were betting you weren't going to have the car. And I'm the one that went to the 36-month battery back then because it seemed to me like that was the best value in terms of how long could it reliably last. I watched the 60-month battery become a 36-month. Same battery. Does that answer your question? Yeah, and batteries have gotten a little better. There's 3 different kinds of batteries now. That's a whole other class.
Just to follow up on your comment that says thieves don't like to drive standard transmissions. Yeah. Kyle Arnold at AG Automotive, I asked him, will you buy my car? And he says, no, it's a standard transmission. People don't know how to drive it.
Yeah, that's right.
One of the things that Becky had in a newsletter several years ago, I took and snipped out and I emailed it to a friend. And I don't even remember what that part was. I took a big enough snip that the article above it was what she read also. And so, Becky, would you talk about so many cars today, you can program when you walk up, it'll only unlock the driver's door instead of unlocking everything.
Right. That's in the settings menu. You can go through and adjust the settings on what it does.
And especially,
then you can adjust how soon it locks the door, how soon it unlocks the door, and on and on.
Well, especially, I think part of it in your newsletter was from the standpoint of a woman. If you're leaving work, maybe it's leaving work at night.
That's right.
Or you're leaving, you've done your grocery run or whatever, and you're walking back with your gallon of milk or whatever. Well, don't unlock 5 doors.
Well,
unlock 1.
Yeah, and if you're parked in a big parking garage, you need to find your car. Use the lock button to flash the lights instead of the unlock button. All right, the newsletter. You got a copy of the newsletter. I've won 5 national awards for this thing. I spend 40 hours to put research to put together the newsletter. And you can go to georgewitt.com, that's our website, and across the top there's a little banner and it'll say newsletters. You can click on newsletter and it'll open up and it'll show you all the different ones that I've done. You can click on October of 25 if you want. I kind of slacked off at the last year. I've done one once a month. I'm going to be doing them once a month. People really enjoy them. It's a lot of fun.
Any other questions for Becky tonight?
You've been a great crowd. Thank you so much for being here.
Yes, let's thank Becky for being our presenter tonight.
Anybody all wounded because you need a Twinkie? All right.
Next month, next month we have Brett Ebert coming from Ball Loudon Law Firm. She's going to talk about, once you're 18, you think, well, I'm going to live forever. Well, once you're 18, there are some legal documents really that you need to have. Well, my parents will know. Well, they may not know. And they may not be around when you have a problem. So she's going to talk about some estate things, in particular for people that are younger. She's also going to talk about probably some estate things for people that are older, but we invite you to come. It'll be the first Tuesday of the month. I think it's May 5th. I could be wrong on that. I don't remember the exact date, but we have Brett coming next month, same time, same station, same channel, first Tuesday, 7 p.m. Thank you for coming tonight. We do have coffee, we have cookies, have a glass of water, whatever, before you hit the road, and we really appreciate you being here, and obviously we appreciate Becky being here too. So hope you've had some fun tonight and maybe, turn some wheels up here. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. This was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.